Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. So it's just Marco here once again, and I am going to be doing another video today. It's just that I watched this movie, this new release movie, today, and so I just thought, whatever, I will also review this movie. So I watched the movie Champions with Woody Harrelson, and it's all about this kind of like I don't know how to describe him. Like he just has some problems, and he's a basketball coach. He just has some problems. He just I don't know how to describe him because there's an issue at the beginning of the movie where he is an assistant to this coach played by Ernie Hudson, which I will say the cast for this movie was really, really good. I loved seeing Ernie Hudson, and I would have loved to have seen even more of him in the movie because he's such a good actor. And he was the head coach for this basketball team, and Woody Harrelson was his assistant. And this will all be spoilers too, because I don't really do non-spoiler reviews. Well, I guess I could. I will give the non-spoiler review, and then I'll get into quote-unquote spoilers, because people are so picky about what is a spoiler, what isn't a spoiler. It's just really hilarious to me because movie trailers nowadays, they practically spoil the entire movies. So I don't even watch trailers. I have stopped watching trailers a couple of years ago when I realized that, all they did was just spoil your experience of a movie. And I hate it. I just prefer to watch the movie without any trailer, anything, except for maybe pictures or casting announcements, maybe. That's it. I don't want to see any trailer where, nowadays too, there's lots of these movies where the trailer is better than the movie. For instance, you had Ant-Man 3. That trailer was a really, really good trailer, and it made the movie look like it was dark. It made it look like it had this interesting, I'll trade this for this story, and it looked really good, and then the movie is like a giant piece of shit. So anyways, back to the movie. My non-spoiler review for Champions. I would say that this movie is a really good movie. And I'm not just saying that, and I know that, last year or the year before, it might have seemed like there were certain movies where I overhyped them, which it is hard to review movies as well when you just watch them. It's a lot better to watch a movie and then wait like a week or so to really, know what your true opinion on the movie is. So, sometimes I'll watch a movie and think it's really terrible, and then I'll kind of warm up to it and be like, that's pretty good. This is one of those movies, though, where I think that I'll always love this movie. I think that this is one of the best feel-good movies that I've ever seen. And it's really hard to find feel-good movies because there's so many movies nowadays that are aimed at doing the opposite. And in particular, you have these political agenda movies, and they're all about putting people down. They're all about pointing out flaws and pointing out just negative stuff. You never really see feel-good movies like this anymore unless they're really too feel-good, like a Hallmark movie, to where it feels contrived and forced. This is a natural feel-good movie where it feels like this is just a really good movie. And It's just like the whole movie, like it was like, wow, I have never had an experience like this since Turner and Hooch in 2017, when I had a similar problem, because I'm still sick getting over this infection, and it's just it's terrible. And watching that movie was a similar experience, where even though you're sick and you're getting over something, you're sitting there and you're just enjoying like this movie, and you're like forgetting that you're sick or anything or have any problems at all. And that's what movies are supposed to be. They're supposed to be an escape, and something where it doesn't remind you of the real world, even though it is the real world. That's a weird thing. So I really like this movie. However, there are a lot of cliches, and I will get into the cliches and the spoilers. But let's just say, imagine any sports, drama, comedy movie ever, and then just erase some of the fill-ins, and then add a couple of new details. Like, even the poster. I saw this poster where it's a really cool hand-drawn style poster, but what is it supposed to be emulating? It's supposed to be emulating Bad News Bears, which, came out a long time ago, and then they did the crappy-ass fucking remake. I think that'll be the only time I ever talk about Bad News Bears. It's a great title, though. It's too bad that they ruined it with that remake. So that's sort of the unfortunate side of this movie, is that you can see where all the cliches are, and you can see like, oh, I know it's going to go there, I know it's going to go there. It's very predictable, and it's just kind of like it happens, and then it's over. But the thing is that even though it is predictable and cliche so much, you could play a drinking game and you'd be dead in the first 30 minutes. Or even before then, even like in the first 15 minutes, if you want to play a drinking game, how many sports, comedy, drama, movie cliches are there? And every time there is, you take a shot. Oh, God, that would be hell. And even though that is the case with this movie, somehow it doesn't matter to me at all. Like, even though I'm just pointing it out, I'm not necessarily criticizing it and saying that it's a bad thing. I think that, movies can have flaws, and then you can just not care. And this is one of those times where, even though you could technically pick this movie apart and just say, oh wow, there's that cliche, the positivity, the good acting, the good dialogue, the music is good. Every element of the movie is good. It's kind of like if you get a steak, if you just get like a ribeye steak, and then you complain that like, oh, it's just a perfectly cooked ribeye steak. And it's like, wait a second. It's a fucking steak. It's really good and it's really tasty. So obviously you should be really happy about it. That's kind of the case with this movie. So I would give this movie, in terms of food, it is a ribeye steak, perfectly cooked, which is medium, and a baked potato, and maybe green beans or something. That's what this movie is to me. It's just a perfect, simple movie. You don't have to make a complicated conundrum of a movie. You don't have to make something that's overly... I don't know, it's just, I look at all the other movies that I've watched so far this year, and all of them are so much different than this. Like, all of them are so fake and phony. Like, in Scream 6, you had all these cringeworthy Lifetime movie scenes in between the awesome horror scenes. And, it's like, you have a sister and she's like, yeah, you're hanging on to me too much. Wah. And it's like, this is fake and phony, and I can tell, and it just feels like they just put it there to have it be there. But with this movie, everything feels like it's real. It feels like everything's natural, and so I don't know, I really like this movie. Like, it's not my favorite movie of the year just because, John Wick 4 was like a masterpiece, and other reasons that I will talk about with that movie as well in the future, that you will see. I won't get into that right now. But still, I really like this movie, and so now I'm going to talk about the spoilers, which is basically just me going through the whole movie and being like, oh, there's that, there's that, there's that. If you'd like to watch that. Or, I mean, listen to it. But some people might watch it, you never know. So, this movie, I think that the perfect situation to describe watching this movie would be, just imagine you go to Blockbuster on Friday and you're like, I need to get 3 movies for the weekend. Get 1 movie for Friday, 1 movie for Saturday, 1 movie for Sunday, and then you return them next week, and one of those movies would be Champions. And then you go over to Papa John's. You get a medium-sized, half pepperoni, half cheese pizza. You get a soda if you want. Maybe like a... I don't know. I don't like any of the sodas anymore. I think probably my favorite soda is... Mr. Pibb is obviously my favorite soda. Actually, I just remembered that. I'll always be loyal to Mr. Pibb. So you get some Mr. Pibb and Papa John's pizza, and you watch this movie, and you just have a good Friday evening. You don't really think about, you don't really, go too much into it and go, I don't know, I'm already discussing it for too long. You know what I mean? This isn't a movie where you talk about it for 5 hours and you talk about the intricacies of, the characters and character development. It's just a good movie that you can watch and feel good and have a good time without any agendas or any bullshit. It's just a really good movie for 2023 especially. But just in general, too. In general, this is a great movie. And so it starts off where, finally, I get to talk about what I was going to talk about 10 minutes ago. So Woody Harrelson has a disagreement about a play that the coach should make. And then the coach says, F you, I'm going to do the play that I'm going to do because I'm the coach. You're the assistant. And then Woody Harrelson gets hands-on with him, and then he gets kicked out of the game, and then he gets fired. But I don't know, this kind of stuff, it happens all the time. Stuff like this, especially in sports, in the heat of the moment. So it was kind of hard to gauge Woody Harrelson as a character, because he just kind of seemed like a normal guy who who had a disagreement about the play that he was making. Well, after that, throughout the movie, what I really liked was that you discovered as the movie went on what type of a person he actually was. And you discovered that he was very impersonal and he liked to use people and he just didn't really care about people in general. He just cared about himself. And so I really liked how instead of like beating you over the head with that fact at the beginning of the movie, you learn that as the movie goes along, and then you know he has to change, which is a great thing. And so it also starts off where he sleeps with this woman, and she's like a Tinder date, and it's like, ugh, of course, ugh. And she leaves, and there's a little bit of like awkward light comedy, and that's the one thing I will say is that some of the comedy in this movie is just really, really light, like clever comedy where it's, you know, it's not the greatest comedy in the world, but you know, you can forgive that if the movie's good. So she leaves, and believe me, she's important. I'm not just bringing her up for no reason. Well, then Woody Harrelson gets into a drunk driving accident where he runs into a police car. That was pretty funny, that whole thing. And then he gets sentenced to 90 days of community service, being a basketball coach to mentally disabled guys and girls. It's mostly just guys. There's only one girl player on the team later on in the movie. And it's just all about him getting to know them and getting to learn that he has to care about other people first. And, you know, caring about other people will lead to good things. And, you know, it's a very positive movie. And it has all the typical hallmarks, though. I mean, right off the bat, you know, there's a character that we meet, that girl, and we find out, oh, the girl is actually a sister of one of the players. How convenient. You know, there's thousands and thousands of girls in Tinder in the Iowa area where this guy is in. He just happens to meet up with the sister of one of the main characters of the movie. Ha 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 ha. And then you have cliche number 2. You have a character who has like a problematic history where he got kicked off of teams as coach over and over and over again for one reason or another, or as assistant coach. And it's like, okay, that's another cliche. And then there's a player on the team, and he's like a problem player, and he doesn't want to play because he has a personal issue at home that, you know, affects what's going on there. And that's another cliche. And then you have the player who the coach gets really close with, and then he goes to his house and meets his family, which of course involves his sister. That's another cliche. And then you have, I mean, let's just go on and on. And then you have the character who tells the main character he's a jackass later on in the movie, and it makes him kind of reevaluate his perspective. And it's like, okay, that's another cliche. And then it is ridiculous. Like, you could go on and on and on and list like almost every plot point in the whole fucking movie. But somehow, even though it is that cliche, it is that by the books, it is still a really good movie. The comparison that I would like to make is with a really bad movie that I watched in 2020 called The Way Back, starring Ben Affleck. And that movie it was basically all about like, oh, Ben Affleck struggled with alcoholism, and then he made this movie about a guy struggling with alcoholism, and then he got better. That's that movie in a nutshell. It had all the same qualities that this movie had, except for one thing. Instead of being light and comedic and feel good and, being about positivity and being about, inspiration, motivation, doing better, he made a movie where it was a Debbie Downer. It's like, oh, he's up against the wire. Oh no. Oh, he's sinking back into his old habits. Oh no. Oh, it's really dark. It's really sad. Oh no. And it's like, this is not something I want to watch. Like, this is just, ugh, ugh. It's how I sound. It's how my voice sounds right now. Encapsulated into a movie. And this movie is the good version of that. So, as the movie goes on, of course, he gets to know the players and he helps them out with certain issues. Like, there's this one guy, and he does not like to take showers. And so Woody Harrelson has to trick him into taking a shower, which is pretty funny and, also pretty convenient for the plot with this whole mice scenario. But again, it's like, I don't even care. I really don't care. Like, this is probably one of the only times in history where you will ever see me be like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, oh, there's all these, like, and let's talk about the biggest problem with the movie, which is the relationship. So, this girl, she's a really likable actress. She did a really good job as this character. The character, however, she is the typical. It's actually pretty funny because you could point at her and you could just say it like, yes, this is a Tinder experience with a capital T. Because she is just so by the books. And oh my God, I swear to God, if there is another fucking movie this year that I watch where there's like some throwaway line where there's a female character and she's like, I have needs. I have needs, so I gotta sleep around with people like a whore. Like, that's what this character says in this movie. And so she's like, I have this schedule where I go to work in this crappy job, and then I go home with my brother, and that's kind of like another crappy job that I don't get paid for. And then in the evening, I swipe around on Tinder, and because I have needs, and it's like, wait a second. But what does that have to do with your dating life? Like, oh God, ugh. It's like, ugh. Like, as well as I do, this is exactly what it's like behind the screen. That they swipe on the profiles, they press the heart or they press the X. You know exactly from this movie what you're getting into. Because she is just so, like, cliche. She is the most cliche love interest. So, she starts having sex with Woody Harrelson over and over and over again, and and she's just like kind of having a fling with him. And that's the thing that I really didn't like, was that, she spent so much of the movie criticizing Woody Harrelson and telling him to get better and to grow up and to, not grow up, but like, be a less selfish person, do this better, do that better. But then here you have her, and instead of trying to find like a quality relationship, she's just going around sleeping around with people from Tinder. And then like Woody Harrelson comes in, and just because he's there, she even admits like just because he's the one who's there, she's going to be with him. I did kind of like that though, because it is kind of funny how it feels a little bit like an Adam Sandler situation where she's just way out of his league for right now. Just based on like this character, the characters in this movie, in terms of like, no, that didn't make sense. But it's just throw that away, throw that out the window. You know what I mean, though. They were an awkward couple at first, but they ended up being a good couple by the end of the movie. I grew to like her character more. I grew to think that, yeah, she's not as terrible as I thought she was. But the relationship then kind of stuck out a little bit. In particular, they have the most awful cliche that you can ever have in a comedy. It's a cliche that it's so irritating to me that it almost makes me want to give every comedy that has this an F. It has the sad period. And you know what I mean. 3/4 of the way through the movie, the main character comes off like a douchebag. The other characters tell him he's a douchebag. And then he feels sad, and they feel sad. And then there's like a happy ending where he's like, wait a second, maybe I'm not a douchebag. Yay! They have that cliche in this movie. It's not as bad as other comedy movies where it just takes a really dark turn and it's like, yeah, this character's a bad person. He bad. Yeah. It's not like that degree, but it is to the point. It's 2023. I'm just so sick and tired of seeing movies where that happens. That is probably my biggest comedy movie pet peeve, is to have the sad period. Like, because I can't think of a single good sad period in a comedy movie. Like, even in the best comedies, like even in one of my favorite movies of all time, Superbad, they have kind of like a mix between a sad period and just the normal movie that's going on. Because both characters, even though they have like a falling out near the end, a temporary falling out, the movie still feels like it's going on, and it still feels like it's not really affected, and they're not doing this mopey, let's play some sad music, let's have the characters make sad faces. Like, why do they have to do that every comedy movie? Like, why does there always have to be a formulaic sad period where everybody feels sad? And it's like, what was there even to feel sad about 3/4 of the way into this movie? They came up with like these stupid conflicts that were just kind of like these throwaway conflicts that got resolved in like 2 seconds. And mostly it revolved around the love interest and her brother and that whole interaction. And I was just like, why? Like, why'd you have to have this? Like, this is just stupid. So anyways, that's what I think of Champions. I guess I should talk about the ending. So in the end, he gets offered a big job as an NBA coach. But it turns out that's just a cover-up for recent scandals going on in that other area. And they're just using him as a feel-good story to cover up for their wrongdoings. And so he has to decide between staying with these guys, the Friends team. He's got to decide between staying with them or going to the NBA. And yeah, we all knew it was going to happen. He's not going to go to Seattle, and then they're not even going to win the game. And then they had this hilarious scene where they're in Canada and they're almost to the finals or whatever, or I can't remember the regionals. I don't know. I don't know any of this crap, any of these terms like regionals or what. I don't really care. So they lose, and it's actually kind of a hilarious sequence because I will admit they did do a little subversion here. So typically in sports movies, they'll practice a really simple play at the beginning of the practicing, and then that play will be the play that they use to win the final game. Well, instead of that, it goes terribly wrong, and they lose the game, but the players see it as a victory because the guy who made the final shot, he will only throw the ball backwards without looking, and he never makes the ball even to the rim, but he makes the ball to the rim in this final game, and so all the players on the team, they see it as a victory instead of a loss. But it is kind of that typical, oh, we didn't win, but we were winners before we even got here kind of ending, which to me, again, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. I mean, it's a good movie. It's like, you know, it just has flaws, and you gotta not care about those flaws, because I think that sometimes the way a movie can make you feel is a lot more important than the way that a movie can make you think and kind of like pick apart things and just go a little overboard in that area. So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of Champions. I would definitely watch this movie again, that's for damn sure. This is a top 10 feel-good movies of all time. And I'm not just overhyping it. I'm not just, I'm being serious. This is a really good movie. I'd highly recommend it, even though it is very cliche. It's just sometimes even the most cliche movie that's been done a million times before can be better than a movie that, hasn't ever been done before, and it's very original. So please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews like this. And this was way longer than I intended, but I just wanted to give this movie the attention it deserved, because on Friday I will most likely be reviewing Dungeons and Dragons. Ugh! Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.